Ultra Magnus, there are more Decepticons coming this way. Give me cover fire. On it, Rodimus. Maagnus, what the heck? Maagnus. What, sir? Dang it, Maagnus. Stop doing that. Stop doing what, sir? Really starting to understand why the Matrix didn't choose you.
When it comes to modern Transformers toys that don't transform, the most impressive have to be the ones made by Threezero, giving us incredible 12-inch figures of the movie designs that look like they came right off the screen. But as much as I like the movies, I can't really justify buying them when each one is almost $300. Then, they announced their new MDLX line of 6-inch figs, giving us these unique stylized takes on the G1 designs that are still pricey, but not in a way that makes me say, I will never own these. They just have to make the right characters for me to buy. Well, the first two were shown off and I said, yeah, I can skip the Optimus, and the Bumblebee I love, but I'll wait and see if we get a Cliffjumper repaint, which we did get even faster than I imagined. And then we saw a thing about this line that I both do not understand and do not agree with. Every repaint in this line has been at least $20 more than the original. It makes them hard to want to pick up, meaning I never did get that Cliffjumper. Thankfully, they then launched their second wave, having my favorite of all Cybertronians, Rodimus Prime. And if I was ever going to get into this line, what better way to start than with my number one guy? Also, just in case I fell in love with this new type of Transformers toy, I did pre-order the Ultra Maagnus to stand by his side, even with those extra $20. I think he shouldn't be charged at, only for Maagnus to show up first, despite the order info saying he would have shown up after Rodimus. So I have the both of them, regardless, and because I got Maagnus first, let's look at Maagnus first. He is looking nice in his all-white colorway with the bright blue face mask. Honestly, sometimes I think, as cool-looking as the armored-up Maagnus design is, I may actually prefer him as an albino recolor of his brother. Plus, on this toy, the white really makes the panel lining pop. And of course, with him being a high-end figure, he has crazy levels of articulation. Basically, everything is double-jointed, even when they don't need to be, just so they can say it has that much movement. I do love the way the shoulders are built under his armor, and how you can make them look dislocated. That said, you want to be more careful with the knees, because I pulled one of them a bit too far forward and launched off the front thigh panel. Thankfully, these tabs on the inside hold in so well that I haven't felt the need to re-glue it or anything. Speaking of stuff that can pop off on him, he's got his hip skirts that are all on little ball joints to move any way you want. They'll let the hips do whatever you want them to do. He also has a ball-jointed panel covering the front of his foot, though they seem far more tight than the ones on his hips. And the other sides of his feet have more panels that are on hinges and move much farther out than he needs them to go, because his ankles don't move this far at all. You can also pull off his backpack, mostly because it was packaged separately, but you could just not use it if you don't like it. In the accessories department, he has 6 different sets of hands to mess around with, starting with some closed fists to do hand-hand brawling, 2 types of weapon-holding hands for his gun and axe, which we will circle back to later, some jazz hands for all those dance shows Maagnus would never do, these pointing hands where he's pointing with 2 fingers for some reason, and a set of Matrix holding hands for this Matrix he has that is almost paper thin. I really don't like this thing. It just doesn't feel that great or look that cool. You can of course put it in his chest, and the window panel has these magnets to hold it in place, which I would worry about them losing their magnetism over time, but there are also these 2 pegs that go into some holes next to the lower magnets, so it will probably be fine. To get more ready for some intense melee, he has this big axe, with a blade made out of blue energy to chop up some Decepticons, although all they need to do is cut those wires on the top of it, and those blades are no more. Now, would it have been cool instead of repainting Prime's axe, to give him a hammer to make him feel like a true Ultra Maagnus figure? Sure, but you can't deny that this is a good-looking weapon. And his final accessory is again only here because he's a repaint, and it's the Ion Blaster. And I don't like this version of it. It's just too big. It feels like the force of just one blast from this thing would send the user flying back. It just feels so out of place with the rest of the toy, like it wasn't even made for him. That said, even if his gun is weird and he doesn't justify the extra $20, I still think he's a great overall package, and something worthy of picking up if you're a super Ultra Maagnus fan. Alright, now to look at the original tooling of Rodimus Prime. Honestly, I don't know how to feel about this take on him. My biggest problem with him is his torso, having this more oval shape. Just feels odd, and when you move it back, it reveals a silver pipe in his gut, which is weird, and if you lean him forward, it reveals this bump on his back that just doesn't look right. His shoulders kind of just look like they're floating next to the body instead of actually being connected to it, and he has these random vent-like things on his sides that are ball-jointed for some reason. To continue with things I don't like, he has 2 tones of red on him for more detail, which is fine. But the transition between them on his head fin is just horrible, in how it just stops and changes to the other. Also, what are these panels doing on his arms? All they do is cover up his arm pipes, which is one of his most defining features, and they're articulated just because? The upcoming Sideswipe has panels like this too, but we've had versions of him with that detail before. But for Rodimus, it just takes away a part of him. Okay, now to talk about the good of this guy. His spoiler is amazing. It's big and striking with the addition of the extra orange and these silver spikes to give it some added flair. It's also super sharp. Like, this could draw blood sharp, so be careful with it. It can also be removed to show off these thrusters on his back. His hip armor is also all small ball joints, but looks far cleaner than Ultra Maagnus and haven't popped off either. The details on his legs are just really cool, and there's something I really like about making his knees orange like his legs instead of black to go with his boots, like every other Rodimus toy. He's also got his own bunch of hands to change around with, starting with his own set of fists, some more jazz hands which look way better on him than Maagnus, a pointing finger and thumbs up, but only for the left hand, and he has these 2 relaxed hands for both him and Optimus to recreate that one Studio Ox art piece of them holding hands. Maagnus will stand in here because I don't have that Optimus. Oh, and he also has Matrix holding hands for the Matrix he comes with. Oh wait, he doesn't have a Matrix. Why doesn't he have a Matrix? Mr. I can't deal with that right now. Ultra Maagnus comes with the Matrix, but Rodimus Prime, the chosen one, the guy who may be, at least in the Japanese continuity, the son of Primus himself, doesn't? They really made this thinking everyone would have an Optimus figure, didn't they? Lastly, he's got his photon lasers and some hands to hold them. I've mentioned before that I don't really like him having these when he's Hot Rod, given how his arm pipes are already guns, but this figure covered up his pipes, so I guess he needs them here. Plus, I do kind of love the way they look here, really giving them some grit. They almost look like they belong in a Halo game. Even still, it's odd to have Rodimus Prime using the Hot Rod guns, but thankfully you can remove the barrel from the larger gun and give him his Photon Eliminator sniper rifle, looking the most like a sniper rifle it has ever been with this design, and I'm into this weapon. With it being 2 guns combined, it has 2 handles for him to hold, which makes sense for the type of gun it is. It's not the most impressive thing, but a much better weapon than Maagnus' Ion Blaster. I do also feel like the removable barrel of the one gun should become a pistol maybe, but it just does nothing on its own. I do have a lot of faults with this figure, but it's still an incredible version of Rodimus, and if you want a high-detailed, non-transforming toy of the true Autobot Commander, this is worth picking up. It's a much cheaper option than the Ultimetals version, even if that one is beautiful. Overall, I still don't like the price of these toys, and that's not shocking, because as much as we all complain about the prices of regular toys, I don't think any high-end collectibles justify their prices. Much like how I don't get why every repaint should have 20 more bucks slapped on them, I think I would like every figure in the MLDX line dropped down by 20. Even still, I do really like these guys, and and if they do more of my favorite characters, I'll look into getting them. That said, given that Starscream is $120, I may skip the 140 Thundercracker, but I may pick up that Cliffjumper now. I also hope for an RC one day. Threezero clearly has many fans, and these toys deserve the fandom they have, and let's hope that one day we can have a huge universe of MDLX characters to play around with. They may not transform, but they're wonderful things to have. If they have or one day make your favorite character, I think you should go for it. If it's as good as these two, then it'll be worth the purchase.